Alright, so while past me pulling this apart, I'm gonna put a bit of a disclaimer here. This will not work for everyone. You'll need to kind of MacGyver this to work for you if you wanted it to, but it shouldn't be too hard depending on the system that you have. However, if you want to do this with a Chromecast audio, which is only Bluetooth, it's a lot more simpler and a lot more easier in all honesty. So yeah, let's get right into this, and I hope you guys enjoy, and let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Alright, what's up everyone, and yeah, I'm going to be trying something a little bit different in this video. It's not something that I usually do. Also, on top of that, I am trying a new microphone with this camera. Hopefully it sounds alright. If it sounds really bad, I'm going to end up having to overdub this video, which I don't want to do because it's a hassle, but hopefully it sounds alright. Let me know what you guys think of the new microphone in the comments below. So, in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to actually replace one of these, which is an old VCR, with just a Chromecast. Now, if you're wondering why I'm actually doing this, it's because of this thing is actually out of a car, and it's basically the family's car, and it's an old VCR. It came with the thing. It rolled out the factory with one of these in it, and you don't really have a use for these anymore, so it kind of was just sitting there hogging power doing nothing. So I thought, heck, why not? It has the ability to become something a bit more modern. Why not try to slap a Chromecast in there and see how that goes? Now, this is a little bit tricky and a little bit different from what I normally do, because I usually do tech stuff, and this is tech related in essence, but it's a bit more electronic like, and there's a bit more modding that needs to be done with this. So let me run you guys through the things that we need before we actually get started. You are going to need some solder. Let me bring that up here so hopefully it's out of focus. You're going to need some flux, a soldering iron, of course. So I got my one here. You're also going to need your Chromecast, obviously, the little hockey puck thing. You're going to need some spare cables, depending on what your vehicle uses. You're going to need that kind of cable. You're going to need a converter box also, depending on what your vehicle has. In my case, I got an old school composite. It converts from HDMI to old school composite, which really isn't used anymore, so it's basically like an obsolete thing. The USB cable that came with the Chromecast, we possibly may need to hack that up, and an old charger that you really don't care about that we're probably going to use to hack up and to run both the converter and the Chromecast. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that you need, and I'm going to also show you how to set this up next, because there is an interesting way you need to set this up, because the Chromecast will not work without internet. However, if you are doing this, the Chromecast audio, however, works through Bluetooth. So if you want to try this with a Chromecast audio, that works through Bluetooth, and all you would really need to do is figure out a way how to wire this into aux. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys how to set this up. All you need really is two Android phones, one with Tether and one with the Google Home app. And yeah, so I'm going to reset this guy, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Alright, so the next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to make sure that one of your devices has the Google Home app installed, which is going to be the second phone, and then your main phone, which has Tether. Now, if for whatever reason, in this case on this phone at least, I'm running CyanogenMod, which allows you to tether without a plan. If for whatever reason you can't tether without a plan and your phone complains about it, I'd recommend an app called Foxfi, and it's on the Google Play Store. You can also buy it as well. It has a key, but you can download the free version and use it just for this. So the first thing you're going to need to do is actually you're going to need to start up the Tether on one of your devices. Now, I've already had the password and stuff set up. Every device is different, so you're kind of going to need to tinker with that on your own and figure out what you want to set for your password and SSID. The next thing you're going to want to do also is connect the second device to that network, like so. So we're going to go into the Wi-Fi settings of this device. I'm going to connect. Now I've already entered the password for this, obviously. As you can see, that's the temporary Chromecast network. So now the next thing we're going to do is, once you already have that device connected to your Tether, you're going to go into the Google Home app. Alright, now that when you open up the Google Home app, as you can see, it says new device found. Let me see if I can get that focus here. Okay, well I really can't, but as you see, you can say dismiss or setup. So we're going to hit setup. And as you can see, that's the temporary name, so we're going to hit continue. Now, the reason why I tell you to connect this phone to that hotspot as well is so that way when the setup's about to finish initializing at the end, it will also already have the network, so it'll connect to it and not actually have any problems getting the Chromecast to connect to that network. Alright, so as you see, it's successfully connected. Also, this bit here, this is where you would need it connected to your TV or your computer monitor, whichever you have that supports HDMI in. I have it connected to my capture card, but however, because of HDCP, I'm not actually able to
show you guys it through capture. So however, I can take the camera off the tripod here, so let me just do that. And as you can see, there's that code that it was mentioning before, and N5P5. You want to make sure that code matches with what you see on the phone. Let me get my phone back up here. I want to make sure that code matches what you see on your phone. Let me actually adjust that again. And we're going to hit I see the code. You can give it a name. In this case, I'm just going to call it Car Chormecast. You can name it whatever you want. This is so that way, if anyone, or if you ever need to configure the device, you know which device you're configuring. So I'm going to hit down. Or you're also going to make sure enable guest mode is checked. The reason for that is so that way, when you have the thing in the car, you can also have people connect to it without needing to connect to your hotspot on your phone. So that way, it saves up a lot of congestion on your phone as well. So we're going to hit continue. As you can see, it already selected the Wi-Fi network because that's the one that this phone knows. So we're going to hit OK. And we're going to type in the Wi-Fi password here. So let me type that in. Alright, so now that the password's typed in, I'm going to hit continue. As you can see, it's connecting to it. And now also, if you look at the Chormecast over here, it also says that it's connecting to it. And yep, so it's almost done. Now it says on my phone that your Chromecast is connected. So I'm going to hit continue. I'm not going to sign in, I'm just going to hit leave setup after that. Now I'm going to go back to the devices page and actually make sure guest mode is enabled. Well, actually it is, so yeah, as you can see, you can also go into the settings here. You can customize this very well, which I like about it. But yeah, as you can see, guest mode's enabled. The pin for the guest mode changes every 24 hours or every time you reboot the device, so just keep that in mind. The pin is not always the same. So let me go back to the monitor over here, and as you can see, it has that pin right there. That's the pin that that anyone in your vicinity is going to use to connect to the device. Now, it also uses some frequency to transmit the pin through audio, which is apparently inaudible to humans. So you don't always need to put in the pin as well. So I'm going to show you right now. So you can see, so we're done with this phone. This phone can basically go back to doing nothing. So I'm going to turn this guy off now, since I don't need it anymore. Now we can go back to my main phone. Now this guy, actually let me put in the passcode here. Now this guy as well, I'm going to show you how to cast to this device as well. For instance, let's say you open up Plex for instance. And even though your phone is on tether, this phone will still be able to cast to that device even though it's technically not on Wi-Fi. So for instance, if I click on cast here, as you can see, the device shows up right there. And if I hit connect, it started loading Plex on the other display here. Let me show you. It's this one. Oh wow, it already connected. So apparently, yeah, there you go. As you can see, it's ready to cast. It's already gotten the pin. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Sometimes if the device is not able to hear the pin, it will resort to asking you for it. You can just manually type it in as well. So yeah, that's how you connect it, and that's how you set it up. So let's move on to the next bit, which is actually going to be wiring everything up to work properly. Alright, so as you can see, we got everything set up here. We got our solder and flux. We got iron, which I'll plug in a bit. And we also got a battery bank. Now if you're wondering what the battery bank's for, it's also going to be for testing this cable to check the voltage on. And if you want to be on the safe side, you should probably also use a multimeter to actually check the polarity of the wires. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to be using standard red and black wires anyway. So the first thing you're going to want to do is chop the end off one of these. So I'm going to chop the end off this guy. I'll kind of cut it a bit longish so I can reuse this if I ever need to. But yeah, so I'm going to slice it up like that. You can also use wire cutters, but I don't have any right now that would fit this, so a pair of scissors should do the job, like that. As you see, white and red wire, so we're going to also check that in a bit. We're also going to cut this down to length, which is going to be this. I would check this, but I don't actually have any 12 volt power supplies I can just plug that into. I'm going to cut this to about here. And if you're wondering, yes, I'm going to reuse this for the Chromecast end here, so that way we don't need to actually chop out the Chromecast cable, because it's actually a really nice cable, a really decent quality one. So we're going to kind of chop this up at the end here. The thing that sucks about using these curled cables is because they were molded being in that spiral shape, they don't actually stay straight. So if I pull this out here, so you can see standard red and black wires. So obviously red's positive, black's negative. And you want to make sure also the charger that you are using is for a phone. Don't use anything otherwise, because it's probably not safe, I would say. You need something that puts out about 5 volts, and this does it. So next thing as well, we're probably going to chop the end off on this one as well. So get rid of this curly cable, springy cable, I don't know what you would want to call this. So I'm going to chop that off. We're not going to need that. Set the scraps aside. I'm just going to cut the end off on this. So we get a bit of wire. So just like that. And pull. And there we go. Red and black. So that should match red and black there. And I'm presuming white is negative on here and red is positive. It makes sense. But just for the sake of checking, I'm going to grab a multimeter in a second and plug this bit into the battery bank and check it just to be sure, because you never know when you buy, you know, off, I don't know what you'd call this, not branded stuff. So there really is no brand for this thing. It's like a generic thing I picked up on eBay for like $9. Also, links to everything I bought in the description. The Chromecast I bought off the Google store when it was on sale during the holidays. This I bought off of eBay. The charger you can probably pick up at like a 99-cent store, honestly. But yeah, I'll have a link to this converter in the description if you want to get one for yourself. So I'm going to get a multimeter and I'll be right back. Alright, so let me see if I can get the multimeter into the camera view there. There we go. I got the power bank right here. So I'm going to test this one because that's not conventional at all. So we're going to splice this up and give it a go, just to make sure that I got the polarity right, so I don't fry anything and waste money. So I'm going to cut this, pull this off like that. These wires are really thin as well, so you can just kind of pull them off with your nail and expose them like that. We're going to hook up the multimeter, so we're going to go with red. It's not really red, it's more pink, honestly, but you get the idea. Oh wow, these wires are really thin. The alligator clamps don't want to bite onto them. See, whenever you're checking USB stuff, you want to always have it set to DC, because that's what it's going to run at. So we're going to plug this guy in and make sure none of the wires are touching. I can actually see where that is. And yep, that's positive 5 volts. If it was negative on the multimeter, it would have a negative right in front of the 5, but it doesn't. So that's great. So that means I got it right. So I'm going to set the battery bank aside. We can get rid of the multimeter now. You can also check your car charger as well. If you want, go plug it into the car and check it with a multimeter, but kind of don't feel like doing that right now. So let's set that aside. Now we're going to get onto splicing these guys. Now, you don't really need to solder these, but since it's going to be in a moving vehicle, the wires are probably going to get loose due to vibrations over time. And I kind of want this thing to last more than a week, so that's probably a good idea to solder them to make the connection much stronger and much more reliable.
One thing I didn't actually mention before that I am going to mention in this bit is that make sure your charger is capable of at least putting out an amp. An amp at minimum, because if it isn't, you'll see why later it will not be able to run the Chromecast.
Like that. You kind of just want to have the wire in between each two of the blades there, so that way you can kind of just like edge it a little bit and cut a piece off, and then you can trim off the rest like that. There we go. There's the wires for the end of our car charger end, at least. Now the thing is, I also want to do is I probably will need to extend this, because one, having this run all the way up like that looks very doesn't look very good, so it looks very messy. So I'm gonna have to find some flat wire to replace all the way up to where it needs to go. So I'm also gonna do that. In the meantime though, I will splice these two together, so that way we at least have that. Now I'm also gonna actually get some extra spare wire to extend this guy, so that way I don't have to actually worry about length, because right now this is way too short for what I need. So I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna go look for some extra wire and I'll be right back. Alright, so I wasn't able to actually find any proper wiring, I guess you can say, but I was able to find some old speaker wire, which should do the job. I wouldn't recommend this for anything high voltage, but it's a low voltage, low current, so it'll do the job. And plus, it's decently thick, so shouldn't have much of a problem. So we're gonna cut off the old corroded bits because this has been sitting out in the storage for quite some time. I don't want to use corroded wires. Just gonna cut that off, and the same thing with this end. Cut it off, and just kind of strip off some new ends.
I thought I would add this in as an afternoon anyways. For the two cables that you see on the table while splicing this one, for that one I matched the red wire with the pink wire and the black with the white for the micro USB and the mini USB. Basically whatever colors you have, mostly they'll be red and black.
And we're also going to twist tie these. So we're going to use the brown wire as the positive, and the silver one is negative. It shouldn't be too hard. The one thing is these wires are a lot more thicker compared to this charger wire, so it's kind of a bit weird having to twist these together. Alright, so I got some tape. Sadly I couldn't find any electrical tape, but duct tape is also alright, so it'll do the job for now. So yeah, we're gonna tape this up and give it a test run outside and see if it works. Or if I just did everything wrong.
Alright, so I ended up actually not including the bit of me soldering or trying to solder the cables together. As you can see, I'm just taping them up. The reason being for that was because for some reason the solder would not adhere to the speaker wire at all. It only would adhere to one of the speaker wires, so I just decided not to include the clip. To save you guys the time of watching me actually try to solder wires that just wouldn't take solder. Even though I used a plentiful amount of flux on it, it still wouldn't budge. So yeah, once you have the wires either soldered or twist tied together, just tape them up separately, and then I kind of just tape them up separately and bunch them together and tape them up again to kind of make like a how you say, a single line, so that way it doesn't look like, you know, two different pieces. Alright, so as you can see in this bit here, I put the key in to get the screen to turn on in the back, and this is sort of the first test run to make sure if everything works or not. And as you can see, I plug in the card charger here. Now ultimately right off the bat I ran into a problem. The Chromecast goes into a boot loop. As you can see, it will turn on, it will turn back off, it will just keep constantly turning on, reset, turning on, reset. So what I quickly realized was that the charger probably doesn't have enough current to keep the Chromecast running. So as you can see, it tried booting and then it resets, and it does it over and over again. Now if that's the problem, most likely you just need to swap out the charger that you're using, but in my case I didn't actually have another one of those chargers that I could splice into. So it was a good thing from the earlier portion of this video that I kept that USB part of that cable that I chopped off a bit long, so I was able to reuse that with a different charger. Alright, so as you can see, I did do the rewiring off camera. As you can see there right in the corner, I'm using a different USB charger with a USB cable instead of the old charger. And I'm gonna go into my phone here, and I apologize for the bad camera. I was using a phone, I just didn't feel like bringing out my giant DSLR into the backyard to film this. But as you can see, I connect to the Chromecast and then it starts to load up Plex. And I'll have to boost the volume in the second bit of this because the audio is very low. Because of the phone microphone not being sensitive enough, but however in person it did sound very loud. So yeah, here's just an image of what the console in the back looked like. As you can see, I got the 3 audio cables going in, and I have the USB charger on the bottom there. If you're wondering where I ended up putting all of this, I ended up putting it where the VCR used to be. That's why I took it out in the first place, so I had the space to actually hide all the cables for this thing inside of there. Plus the VCR wasn't really needed anymore. it was basically sitting there using power and doing nothing, since VCRs are obsolete. The VHS format has been dead for quite a few decades now, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next image here, which is the image of the screen. And now, if there was something that I would do different about this project, is get a better converter, because the converter that I bought was like a cheap $9 thing off of eBay, generic, no brand, nothing. So it wasn't very good. It wasn't working the way I wanted it to, and I can't force the resolution on the Chromecast. The converter box is telling it to run in 1080p, and the box is basically stretching out the image to fit the 480p format, which I did not want it to do. And because of that, the text is very, very blurry. And as you can see in this image here, the camera doesn't do it justice, but it's very invisible even in person. Only you can read very big text, and that kind of bothers me. So if there's any way in the future that anyone does find out to force the resolution on the Chromecast, let me know in the comments. But if you do have the extra money, buy a better converter box. It saves you so much time. And this image here is just the image of what everything looked like inside of the VCR compartment. Now, here's the thing that surprises me, is that, you know, you got the little hockey puck and then the box for the converter. It still surprises me to this day how far we've actually come in technology in terms of advancement, because that little thing, those two little things compared to the size of that giant VCR, could do so much more than the VCR could. And I don't know, that something about that still surprises me to this day. I guess maybe it's just me, but yeah, it's cool to see how far technology's come, and this is the kind of stuff I like doing too. So, you know, there's that. But as you can see, I got some wire ties to tidy up the speaker cable for the power. I taped down the cables for the power for the Chromecast. I ended up making like 2 tape rings and putting them behind the converter in the hopes that would kind of stop it when the vehicle's moving from like bouncing around. Same thing with the tape on the cable for holding down the Chromecast. Hopefully that holds it, because those are very light devices. They're not really heavy, so that's why I didn't feel like putting any double-sided tape on it. Plus the double-sided tape I have doesn't come off very easily. It's very messy. So yeah, the only problem that I have is how thick the composite cables are. But I had some thinner composite cables. I tried it and it didn't really work too well. For some reason the video was very fuzzy, so I ended up sticking with the thick cable because of its insulation. And I think the last image here is going to be of what the entire system looks like closed in the glove box. And it looks like nothing is there really. All the cables go in neatly, and you can't really tell that there's much of anything inside unless you look from the back where the console is. Then you see the cables routing into the inside of it. Now the only problem is with this vehicle is that even though the key is not in the ignition, the cigarette lighter ports still run, and that's the only problem I have. So that means you have to constantly unplug the USB charger when you're not using it, which is kind of an annoyance. Maybe in the future I could probably wire in a switch or something for that USB thing, so I don't have to constantly keep unplugging it and plugging it back in and wearing it out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was something very, very different than what I normally do. And let me know your thoughts and comments down below. I know this video is not perfect. I know it could have been done a lot better than this, but I do have own very limited resources, and like I said before, I'm still learning how to use the DSLR for the majority of these videos, and I know a lot before the unfocused clips and stuff like that. I really do apologize for that, but I'm really trying to figure out what's the best way to shoot with the space that I have, because I don't have, you know, a studio. I don't have 10 displays which I can constantly hook up my camera to instead of using the viewfinder. But yeah, like I said before, I hope you guys still enjoyed this video anyways. Hopefully it was insightful for all of you to watch, and yeah, I'll catch you all in the next one, and until then, have a great day.